So this morning I want to go over a few things, mainly these bunkers that NORAD, that Congress, the Supreme Court have prepared for themselves to leave you hung out to dry, the rest of you. And when the nukes start flying. So NORAD's hidden bunker keeps the data snoops out. I want to show you something that I find very interesting, and if these elites would have read the scripture, they would realize that this is not going to work. Workers at the Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station underground bunker walk through the outer glass door before boarding a bus that will carry them a mile down a tunnel and inside the mountain. When built in the 1960s, the bunker was kept sealed from the outside world at all times over fears of a nuclear attack. The doors today are left open most of the time, but can be shut in 20 seconds. The white rowboat bobbing on an underground lake deep inside this hollow mountain isn't the most unique feature of America's most secure intelligence and data center. Well, it might be, but we'll probably never know. That's because Cheyenne Mountain holds the kinds of secrets America won't share with anyone lacking a top secret security clearance. The linked caves a mile inside are a home to some of the world's most sophisticated satellite and other tracking systems. Now, did you notice something? An underground lake. All right. So let's go to the next set of bunkers, shall we? This is on the History Channel. As the Cold War heated up in the 1950s, the U.S. government devised the top secret plans to ensure its survival if the Soviet Union launched a nuclear attack. These continuity of government preparations, including building dozens of underground bunkers and arranged to move high-ranking government officials out of harm's way. From a White House at sea to a subterranean capital at a posh resort. Subterranean capital at a posh resort. Interesting. Is there an underground lake there too? Obviously, the White House at sea would be in the sea or the ocean. Learn more about 7 of those doomsday plans. Okay, so here's one. This is at White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Do you see a pattern yet? Oh, you don't? Well, we're going to get to the root of this and why these are going to be failed methods of escape. For decades, the most ambitious Cold War hideout in the U.S. for the U.S. government was hidden in plain sight at a mountain retreat 250 miles southwest of the capital city. When the Greenbrier Resort undertook construction of a new conference center in 1958, the expansion project, including a top-secret bunker for the U.S. Congress that included everything from a dentist's office to a 400-seat cafeteria. While much of this intended wartime capital was hidden behind reinforced concrete walls, the resort's public meeting spaces included some of the facilities that would have been used by lawmakers. For decades, you had conventioneers and conference-goers filing through the public spaces, never realizing they were actually sitting in the doomsday chamber of the House and Senate, said Garrett M. Graff, author of Raven Rock, the story of the U.S. government's secret plan to save itself while the rest of us die. Yes, folks, they don't care about you. In fact, they want you to die. They're trying all kinds of different ways, short of nuclear destruction, to bring that about. If you haven't figured it out by now, you will soon figure it out, I'm sure. Now, This is the floating White House in the Atlantic Ocean. All right. One of two floating White Houses was always at the sea in Atlantic Ocean, Chesapeake Bay, or shadowing the president around the world, etc. Move this over a little bit if I can. All right. But of course, I think it's no longer feasible because of the satellite technology now. Grove Park Inn, Asheville, North Carolina, the Supreme Court's nuclear disaster digs would have been more luxurious than that of Congress and the White House. The nation's highest court decided in 1955 that in the case of an apocalypse, it would convene inside one of the three banquet halls of the palatial Grove Park Inn, which sported a golf course, and as an added perk was the process of building a new swimming pool. All right. And it goes on and on and on. And of course you have Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado Springs. Once again, springs, lakes, ocean. Do you see the connection? Do you see the familiarity? There's another one, Mount Tony Culpeper, Virginia. All right. Well, the Federal Reserve has their own bunker, you see. But on and on it goes. But anyway. So, what I want to show you is this. I'm just going to go to Bible Hub first. And just type in turn water into blood. All right. The very first one you're going to see is about the two witnesses. And you have the one about Moshe and Aaron turning the water into blood. Then you have David recounting history about how when the water was turned into blood. You have, and on it goes. Okay. Now, after the nukes start falling and you are left on your own to fend for yourselves, these guys have a plan. These elites, the rich and elites, all have a plan. And it is always near a lake, underground springs, whatever. But the problem is, what's going to happen next is the two witnesses are going to lead the people, as I have shown you in Isaiah 66, out of this world to go back to the Holy One. Now, the two witnesses, there was given unto me a reed like unto a rod, and the messenger stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Jehovah, not God, and the altar and them that worship therein. Well, how could he go if it was already destroyed? Well, it was not destroyed at that time. So the messenger was pointing out to Yochanan that the temple was about to be destroyed by the Gentiles. And because of that, punishment would have to be laid out upon the Gentiles. How many years after? Well, nobody knew back then. But now we know it was thousands or nearly thousands of years after. But the court which is outside the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is, but the court which is outside the temple, not leave out, it is banish, cast out, and measure it not. To give unto the Gentiles the holy city, and they will tread it underfoot 42 months, and that occurred 70 AD on the Roman calendar for 3.5 years. And this is going to be in retaliation, but not just in retaliation, there's more, because it is in Isaiah 66. To give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy. They're prophets. 1,260 days clothed in, that's right, sackcloth. Why am I wearing sackcloth? Because I am pointing everyone to what's going to happen after the nukes start dropping. After when the war begins to take place, because when the Gentiles start offing themselves, according to Haggai 2 verses 18 through 22, Zerubbabel's name will be a sign, begotten in Babylon. And Zerubbabel led the Jews out of Babylon. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands standing before the Elohim of the earth. And if you bother to just type in on Bible Hub, Lord of the earth before whom I stand, or just before whom I stand, you will come to Eliah the prophet and Elisha the prophet, both using that statement. And Elisha the prophet took rain from the earth for exactly 3.5 years. And if any man would hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth. And when the king tried to send a captain of 50, and they said, man of Elohim, come down here. He said, if I be a man of Elohim, let fire come down from the sky and kill you and your 50 men. And that's exactly what happened. They have the power to shut the sky that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. How much is the days of their prophecy? 1,260 days. Get your calculator out. It is 42 months or 3.5 years. Now it says they have the power to turn water to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Well, what kind of power to turn the water into blood are they going to have? In Exodus 17, starting in verse 20, and Moshe and Aharoni did as not the Lord, but Jehovah had commanded them. And he lifted up the rod, and he struck the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh. in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river turned to blood, and the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all of the land of Egypt. Now, let us look at a plague. Revelation 16 and verse 4, and the third, we'll start in verse 3. And the second messenger poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as a blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Oh, but that's not all. And the third messenger poured out his vial upon the rivers. Well, there went that idea. And the fountains of waters, the springs, there went that idea, and they became blood. And I heard the messenger of the water say, You are righteous, Jehovah, which are and was and shall reign, because you have judged this way. For they have shed the blood of the Kodesh, which are the Jews, whether you like it or not, that is the truth, and the prophets, which include the apostles. Yet you Christians, you claim that the Jews killed the apostles. No, the Jews condemned the apostles. But the Gentiles killed them. The Jews got their punishment in 70 AD up until now. And now it is the Gentiles' turn to get theirs. Because you have given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. Not only did they kill the Jews and the apostles, but they have been nuking each other and murdering each other by the sword for many, many centuries. So their bunkers, I don't care how rich you are, it's not going to help. It's not going to work. Even putting your water in jugs, bottles, whatever, it's not going to work, folks. I want to find a scripture. I believe this one particular scripture applies to this generation today. I don't know if it's that one. I'll have to do this. Die like men. I'll have to. It might be here. 6. That's not the one I'm looking for. I think I just type in die like men. Nope. Oh, wait a minute, it's right here. It's right there in front of me. Okay. Right there in front of me. 2, 6, and 7. Yes. A psalm of Asaph, not God, but Elohim, stands in the congregation of the mighty, and he judges among the Elohim. How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and the needy. Who were the most afflicted on the earth? The Jews. Who were the most poor and needy upon the earth for the last 2,000 years? The Jews. Deliver the poor and the needy. Get them out of the hand of the wicked. They know nothing, neither will they understand. They walk in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. To say you are Elohim, the children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like the chieftains in war. Arise, Elohim, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the Gentiles. So it doesn't matter how high you reach to the sky. If you think you are like Jehovah Elohim himself, as David pointed out, you shall die like everybody else. There is nothing that these elites can do to avoid what is coming to them. Nothing. And it will come out of the mouth of the most lowly among the Jews. 2 witnesses. Now, for what reason? The same reason in Exodus 7. What was the whole point of these plagues? Why? And Jehovah said unto Moshe, see, I have made you a Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your speaker, your spokesman. You shall speak all I have commanded you, and Aaron your brother shall speak unto Pharaoh. And tell him that he send the children of Israel out of his land. All right? That's what the whole plague was all about. That's where all these plagues of Egypt was all about. That's exactly what the plagues in the book of Revelation is all about. And to drive the point home, we go to Isaiah. '66. I know I've gone over these scriptures over and over and over. I'm not going to stop, folks. Down here, the final judgment against the wicked. Now, what's the final judgment against the wicked? Final world war? Final plagues? The 7 last plagues? How about that? And who are these people? Those that sanctify and purify themselves in the garden behind one tree, in the midst, Christmas tree. They eat swine's flesh, the abomination, and the mouse shall be consumed together, says Jehovah. These are the Gentiles. For I know their works and their thoughts, and it shall come to pass that I will gather the what? Gentiles, the Goyim, the Hashereth Hagoyim, and their tongues, and they shall come. They've got to. Why? Because there's going to be no food and water where they live anymore. They will turn into a desert wasteland. And they will come and see my glory, and I will set a sign among them. And I will send escapees, escaped one, fugitive, in the case of Revelation 11, it is 2 of them, to the Gentiles. To who? To the Gentiles. For what? To Tarshish, that's furthest points west, first. Pul and Lud to draw the bow, to Tubal and Greece, to the coastlands, which is the Roman Empire. Not that I have not heard my fame, that's not what it says. It says, to hear my fame. To hear my report, my fame. Not neither have seen my glory. It says, to see my glory. And they shall declare my glory to the Gentiles. Who? The 2 witnesses. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering to Jehovah out of all the Gentiles upon horses. Oh, wait a minute. Is that horses? No, upon birds. Flying aircrafts. And in chariots. And in covered wagons, cars, buses, whatever form of transportation is available, they're going to be transported on trains too. Even upon mules and swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says Jehovah. And the children of Israel will be brought as an offering in a clean vessel into the house of Jehovah, not the Lord. Jehovah. The same way, with the same plagues. Let my people go for the same reason. So this is a message to all of you elites out there. Think you've got it covered? You think you've got it figured out? In your bunkers, when the nukes start going off, you think that you're going to reduce the population of the world to make a better place for yourself and your robots and your AI. Just keep on thinking that. Or you can listen to scriptures, heed the words of the scriptures, and realize that nothing that you have is any match compared to what Jehovah can do to you. At the end of the day, you put on your pants one leg at a time, 1 foot at a time, just like everybody else, and you have to take a crap in the morning just like everybody else. And you will succumb to the elements just like everybody else. You cannot escape, and you will not escape. And I urge everyone to pay attention to what is going on around the world. This is going to happen as a result of what's going on in the Middle East. what's going on in Europe between Russia and Ukraine right now, all that is doing is ratcheting up the tension. Anything that you see going on right now between NATO and Russia right now is just ratcheting up tension. And I want to point something else out, folks. I almost forgot. Russia says that they are not going to invade any NATO nation. Watch this here. All right. This was over a month ago. All right. So December 17th is on Reuters. Kremlin chief Vladimir Putin dismissed as complete nonsense remarks by U.S. President Joe Biden that Russia would attack a NATO country if it won the war in Ukraine, adding that Russia has no interest in fighting the NATO military alliance. There's the article if you want to read it. Okay. Well, then, who would they invade? Transnistria? Probably. And they're already in Syria. And as I pointed out many, many times, Russia is demanding Israel go back to the 67 borders. And once they finish whatever they're doing in Ukraine, do not be surprised if they try to push against Israel, especially after what's going on with the United States, the UK, and Israel concerning Yemen, and recently bombings in by the US and the UK in Syria and in Iraq. And yes, Israel is going to invade southern Lebanon. I don't know when, but they've been threatening this for the last few weeks. And that's the last thing that Russia wants. But remember, I think you can take Putin at his word. They have no plans to attack NATO. Why? Because they do not want a nuclear war with NATO. Now, I've had people comment on my YouTube videos talking about the Samson option, claiming that the Samson option is about committing suicide and taking everybody else down with it. No, that's not what it's about. You can look that up too. The Israeli Samson option. Okay, this is the Samson Option's deterrent doctrine. Although nuclear weapons were viewed as the ultimate guarantor of Israeli security as early as the 1960s, the country avoided building its military around them, instead pursuing absolute conventional superiority so as to forestall a last resort nuclear engagement. The original conception of the Samson option was only as a deterrence, according to United States journalist Seymour Hersh and Israeli historian Avner Cohen. Israeli leaders like David Ben-Gurion, Shimon Peres, Levi Eshkol, and Moshe Dayan coined the phrase in the mid-1960s. They named it after the biblical figure Samson, who pushed apart the pillars of a Philistine temple, bringing down the roof and killing himself and thousands of Philistines who had captured him, mutilating him, and gathered to see him further humiliated in chains as retribution for his massacres of their peoples. They contrasted it with the ancient siege of Masada, where 936 Jewish Sicarii committed mass suicide rather than to be defeated and enslaved by the Romans. Okay? So, Israeli reporter Ari Shavit writes of Israel's nuclear strategy. Concerning anything and everything nuclear, Israel would be much, much more cautious than the United States and NATO concerning anything and everything nuclear. Israel would be the responsible adult of the international community. It would well understand the formidable nature of the demon and keep it locked in the basement. Some have written about the Samson option as a retaliation strategy. In 2002, published an opinion piece in Louisiana State University, Professor David Perlmutter, in which the American Jewish author Ron Rosenbaum writes, goes so far as to justify a Samson option approach. Israel has been building nuclear weapons for 30 years. The Jews understand what passive and powerless acceptance of doom has meant for them in the past, and they have insured against it. Masada was not an example to follow. It hurt the Romans not a whit. But Samson in Gaza, what would serve the Jew-hating world better in repayment for thousands of years of massacre but a nuclear winter, or invite all of those tut-tutting European statesmen and peace activists to join us in the ovens? For the first time in history, a people facing extermination while the world either cackles or looks away, unlike Americans, Tibetans, World War II, European Jews, or Rwandans, have the power to destroy the world. The ultimate justice. Rosenbaum writes in his 2012 book, How the End Begins, the road to a nuclear World War III, that in his opinion, in the aftermath of the Second Holocaust, Israel could bring down the pillars of the world, attack Moscow and European capitals for existence, as well as the holy places of Islam. You guys want to go and gather up your people to drive the Jews out of Gaza and out of southern Lebanon? You want to go ahead and do that? Is that what you want to do? That's what Ezekiel 38 says you want to do. It was not about firing nukes in Gaza. No. They know full well what you guys are planning on doing to Israel. It's written out here in plain view. He writes that abandonment of proportional is the essence of the Samson option. It is not about destruction of Israel. No. You can read it right here. It is not about committing suicide. It's not about nuking Gaza or southern Lebanon. No. You see it right here. In the aftermath of the Second Holocaust, Israel could bring down the pillars of the world, attack Moscow and European capitals for instance. Now, what I want to do is show you something. It is very important for you to see this. Bible Hub. Ezekiel 38. 39. So when Ezekiel 38 and 39 happens, when the invaders come to invade. Who? Gog, Magog, all of them, right? I will cause you to come out of the north parts and bring you upon the mountains of Israel. That's in the northern part, and I've proved it to you over and over again in Ezekiel 38. The hamlets, a place of hamlets, that would be northern Israel. I will strike your bow out of your left hand, and I will cause your arrow to fall out of your right hand, and you will fall upon the mountains of Israel. And you and all your bands and the people that is with you, I will give you to the ravenous birds of every sort and to the beasts of the field and to be devoured. And you shall fall upon the open field, for I have spoken, it says, Adonai Yehovah. And I will send a fire on Magog. Now it's Magog that's attacking them. But remember, Togarmah includes Riphath, Ashkenaz, and one other, which are European. Fire on Magog and among those that dwell in the coastlands without fear and security, safe and secure in the coastlands. Coastlands of what? The Mediterranean Sea. Who are they? These are the coastlands of the Mediterranean Sea. There will be a nuclear war triggered. They're going to come in, and Jehovah is going to add his own nuclear weapons to the mix. But according to Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22, he's going to bring down the Gentiles, every man by the sword of his brother. It says the same thing in Ezekiel 38. I believe it's 38. There shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea, yes, and the fowls of the sky, and the beasts of the field, and all the creeping things on the earth, and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountain shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground, and I will call for a sword against him in my mountain, says Adonai Yehovah. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. This triggers World War III. Look! Some of the Jews actually know what is going to happen, as you plainly can see right here in the Samson option. They're going to try another holocaust. They're going to try to kill all the Jews once again. They're going to try to do it, but this time is going to be different. You have been warned in advance. In, Ron Rosenbaum's book, How the End Begins, The Road to a Nuclear World War III. In his opinion, in the aftermath of the Second Holocaust, Israel could bring down the pillars of the world, attack Moscow and European capitals, for instance, as well as the holy places of Islam. He writes that the abandonment of proportionality would be of the essence of the Samson option. Now, don't think for 1 second that they are going to wait for all of Israel to be killed before they start launching nukes, because, Golda Meir, which war was that? My dad told me this, so I'm going to Google it right now for the first time and see if I can find it. Let's see if it exists. Right here. The Times of Israel. Moshe Dayan pushed Prime Minister Meir to consider using the nuclear weapons in the 1973 war. I'm telling you that the nuclear war is going to be in the Middle East. That's where it's going to start. It might be Israel pressing the nuclear button. Now you have something to think about. You have been told, you have been warned. Probably going to wish I've gone through the whole article there, but there's enough. I'll try to remember to leave the links. So I need to study that. I need to go find that book. This is going to be very interesting to read. All right, but I think that's enough for today.